In a bustling city, a beautiful lady stood outside a butcher shop, chatting with George Zanuff, the shop's owner. George, a seemingly ordinary butcher, harbored a dark secret. Years ago, he had killed a classmate he loved, dismembering her in a moment of twisted euphoria. That horrific act had landed him in prison for 20 long years, during which he cursed his existence. Upon his release, the last words from his parents still echoed in his mind. "You should have never been born." Now, 3 years later, George lived a quiet life, isolating himself to suppress his urges. He thought he could maintain this solitude until one rainy evening when he met a young girl. She sat shivering at the back door of his shop, soaked to the bone. "Are you not cold?" he asked gently. "Yeah," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Come inside before you catch a cold," he urged. To his surprise, she agreed, stepping into the warmth of the shop. While she took a bath, George prepared a meal for her. He noticed the bruises on her skin, hints of a troubled past, but pushed those thoughts aside. When she emerged, wearing an oversized shirt he had given her, she looked both cute and vulnerable. "What's your name?" he asked. "Alice," she replied, a shy smile lighting up her face. "That's a pretty name," he said, making her blush slightly. "I'm George Zanuff." He introduced himself, trying to put her at ease. "Do you like meat?" "Yeah," she replied eagerly. He prepared a hot plate of Hamburg steak, setting it down in front of her. "Blow on it before eating. It's piping hot," he advised. Alice's eyes widened as she took in the delicious meal. "Wow!" she exclaimed, clearly impressed. As George watched Alice eat, a rare warmth filled him. "I like kids," he thought. "Their innocence, their laughter. It helps me forget my evil nature." As Alice savored the steak, she exclaimed, "This is yummy." George smiled, relief washing over him. "I'm glad to hear it." Curiosity sparked in him, and he asked, "How old are you?" "I'm 8 years old," she replied proudly. He chuckled softly. "This old man is 38. George felt a twinge of sadness as he added, "You can stay here tonight, but you have to go home tomorrow. Your mom must be worried." "She's not," Alice said matter-of-factly. "What about your dad?" he asked. "I don't have a dad," she said quietly. Her next words struck a chord deep within him. "Mom always says I should have never been born." George's heart sank, echoing his own parents' cruel words. "That's not true at all," he replied firmly. "I'm glad to have met you, Alice. Thank you for being born." Alice blushed, and for the first time, she realized she wasn't worthless. "You can stay here as long as you like," he said. "Maybe it's time to do something good for once." The warmth of her presence felt like a chance for redemption. Thus began a new chapter in George's life. The next day, he took Alice to a clothing store, introducing her as his niece. He wanted to buy her clothes that fit. When Alice tried on a cute dress, both the store owner and George exclaimed how adorable she looked. George felt a warmth in his chest as he decided to buy the dress. He also picked out a hairpin, thinking it was a sincere gesture. "This flower on the hairpin is called an iris," he said, smiling at her. "It sounds a bit like your name." Alice blushed again, and George added, "In the language of flowers, iris means love." Her eyes lit up, and she rushed to hug him, surprising him. All George wanted was to feel human again. As days passed, he returned home one evening to find Alice drawing. She proudly presented a picture of him. He was startled, having never received a gift like this before. "Thank you," he said, touched. "You're welcome," she beamed. They hugged tightly, whispering "I love you" to each other. In that moment, George felt a new sensation, an urge to protect this child, to shield her from all the sadness in the world. Is this what they call love? He wondered, realizing he was beginning to understand a different kind of life. As more days went by, George and Alice grew closer. One night, Alice suggested they sleep together. While lying next to her, George was suddenly jolted awake, drenched in sweat from a horrific vision of decapitating her. Panic surged through him as he turned to see Alice peacefully sleeping. His heart raced. She's so small and vulnerable. I could do it. The thought filled him with dread. Morning came and he gently woke Alice. Time to get up. Wash your face. We're going for a walk in the park today. But deep down, he planned to take her to the police to protect her from himself. Alice's eyes sparkled with excitement. When we get home, we can draw pictures. George hesitated but nodded. Okay. But I'm not very good at drawing. That's okay. Just promise you'll try, she replied cheerfully. Inside, George felt guilt twist in his stomach. I'm sorry, Alice. You won't be coming back to my house anymore. As they stepped outside, the sky darkened and rain began to fall. We should have brought an umbrella, he said. I don't need one. It's warm when I'm with you. It always feels nice, she said with a smile. Just then, a voice called out, Alice. They turned to see her mother approaching, the same woman who had visited George's shop. I've been looking for you, her mother exclaimed. Come here right now. Alice crossed her arms defiantly. No, I don't want to. Her mother glared at George. What have you done to my child? You pervert. Mom, stop, Alice shouted. Don't talk about him like that. Her mother flinched at Alice's words, and George sighed, trying to ease the tension. Alice was squatting in the rain outside my shop. I gave her shelter, and she chose to stay with me until she wanted to go home. I'm sorry for worrying you. Tears filled Alice's eyes. But I don't want to go. Alice, you're a good girl, George said gently. You should go back with your mama. Alice nodded, still sniffling. Her mother took her hand, and they began to walk away. As they left, George thought, this is for the best. I hope she finds happiness. Watching them disappear, he felt a mix of relief and sorrow, knowing he had done the right thing to keep her safe. Alice felt a harsh yank as her mother grabbed her hands and threw her to the ground. She hit the dirt face first, wincing as her mother shouted, You stupid little brat! Do you have any idea how worried I was? Alice, still sprawled on the ground, managed an apology, but her mother only responded with a brutal kick to her stomach, leaving her gasping in pain. Just then, George appeared behind Alice's mother. He threw a punch that knocked her unconscious. While she was out, she had a brief flashback, apologizing to Alice for her mistakes as a mother, begging her to come home and promising never to hit her again. When she woke up, she found herself chained to a table in a dark room. George stood over her, a large knife in his hand. She struggled to escape, but the chains held her fast. With a cold expression, George flattened her hand, ready to sever her fingers. Her screams filled the room as he began his grisly work, dissecting her with a detached fascination. The tenderness of the meat, the hardness of the bone. This is life at its finest, he muttered, laughing as he picked up one of her severed fingers. As he continued to dismember her, George felt a strange mix of emotions, lost in a surreal haze, as if this were all a dream. When her life finally slipped away, he sat back, drenched in silence, wondering what to do next. Eventually, he decided to head to the police station. There, he confessed to everything, saying, I kidnapped a little girl, and her mother made a fuss about wanting her back. So I killed the mother and left the scene as it was. Please, put the girl under police protection. The news soon broadcasted the horrific details. A grocery store owner had kidnapped a young girl and murdered her mother, dismembering her while she was still alive. Neighbors expressed shock, calling George a good man who must have been misunderstood. But his past offenses revealed the truth. He had abducted, confined, and killed before, earning him the nickname the Butcher. As he awaited his sentence, the death penalty, George's last memory of Alice was her vacant expression. A child robbed of her family, left with nothing but the scars of his madness. George sat in his cell, reflecting on his life and the people he hurt. He was sorry for Alice and his mother that abandoned him. Despite everything, he felt grateful for the love Alice had shown him, even if it was brief. He was prepared for his execution, ready to accept his fate. To pass the time, he asked the warden for paper and a pencil, and he started to draw. He made sketches of Alice, just as he had promised on the last day they'd seen each other. 10 years passed. In a prison museum, Alice, now an adult, wandered through the exhibits. She was drawn to a particular drawing of a girl smiling in a field of iris flowers. It was a sketch of her drawn by George. She still wore the hairpin he'd given her, and seeing the drawing brought back a rush of memories. In his cell, George, now older with white hair, knew that tomorrow was his last day. Suddenly, the warden came to tell him he had a visitor, a woman named Alice. George was shocked and felt a mix of joy and fear. He worried that she might hate him, but he wanted to see her one last time. As he entered the visiting room, George saw Alice for the first time in 10 years. She shed a tear, saying, "It's been so long." George, overwhelmed with emotion, told her she had grown into a beautiful woman. He thanked her for visiting and admitted that he regretted their meeting. But Alice shook her head, saying, "That's nonsense." She explained how he had shown her what love was and how grateful she was for him. George burst into tears, and they shared a moment of understanding. Alice told him she had faced many hardships, but she was glad to have met him. George listened, holding back his own tears. She asked him about his happy memories, and they exchanged stories, finding solace in each other's words. George kept his secret, not telling her that tomorrow was his last day. Soon, the warden came in and said it was time for George to go. She promised to draw a picture of him next time, and he smiled, saying he'd look forward to it. They said their final goodbyes and Alice left, telling him to take care. Walking back to his cell, the warden asked George if the visit had gone well. George nodded, feeling a sense of peace. The warden then inquired if he wanted anything special for his last meal. After a brief pause, George asked for hamburg steak. It was the first meal he had cooked for Alice when they were together, and the memory brought him comfort. The warden agreed, and the story ended with George, grateful for the time spent with Alice, as he prepared to face his final day. Hi, Manhwa here. I feel conflicted about this story. On one hand, it's quite touching that George cared for and loved Alice, but he also committed 2 brutal murders. He knows it's wrong, but he can't seem to stop himself. The real question, though, is how he was released from prison after such a gruesome first murder and why he wasn't sent to a mental hospital instead. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you for or against George? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'll be uploading weekly, so stay tuned. Your support means a lot, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.